All right, good morning to the DTC Primavera webinar. We're going to get started here. I think everybody's on the line, and I think everything's working according to plan. We hope you enjoy the presentation today and strongly encourage you to post questions throughout the presentation. We'll have everybody on mute. We just found in the past that we get feedback and makes audio a little difficult to decipher sometimes. So if you have questions at any point, please post them in the chat box, and we will either answer them when we receive them or at a later state when it's more appropriate to address that question. And we do have a few survey questions for you at the end of the presentation. It shouldn't take more than a minute to fill them out. And it's twofold. It's one, to help us get some feedback so that we can make our future webinars more, I guess, poignant for our audience. And it's also just to get an understanding of what sort of industry issues and trends your company is currently dealing with, so that we can ensure to be relevant with our topics. So again, let us know if you have questions, and also please take the time to respond to the survey at the end of the presentation. So today we have myself, Scott Cuthbert, the CEO of Digital Time Capture, and Catherine Yaros, and I'll let Catherine do a quick introduction.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Catherine Yaros. I run Toshiko LLC. You see the LLC, you can probably recognize that's a US-based company. My background is primarily Primavera contract management, that solution. I know enough about P6 to be dangerous. I did work with Primavera way back in the day. I've had about 10 years of exposure to their solution set, and another 5 years specifically integrating the Primavera solution set with ERPs like JD Edwards, etc. So if you have any specific Primavera questions, especially surrounding Primavera contract management, then I can field those.
Great, thanks, Catherine. We're really excited to have her on the call today, because we typically get some functional questions about Primavera that we're unable to answer. So hopefully today we'll have a end-to-end functional technical expertise for you. So just a quick background of who Digital Time Capture is. We're a timesheet management software. We specialize in complex, high-volume projects in the industrial industry. DTC is an on-site timesheet management software, often referred to as LEM management, labor, equipment, and materials. And we're industry people. Everyone here more or less worked for a construction company at one point in time and knows the challenges that come along with capturing labor and equipment materials out in the field and getting that information into payroll, into your schedule, and into your job cost system at the end of the day. So we'll start off with a quote from Winston Churchill, and he said, "Plans are of little importance, but planning is essential." And we feel it's very important to make a distinction between a plan and the planning cycle. An estimate often becomes a budget, and if you fail to update the budget or the schedule with actual results and re-estimate the work, the plan quickly becomes obsolete. Planning and initiation for program and project initiation can look a couple of different ways. We've got a program framework, project setup, company contact and user management, work and cost breakdown structures, funding and budgeting. And again, to reiterate the point a little bit, one day your estimating department comes up with an estimate, and the next day it's a budget. And we forget that estimate is a general calculation based on information that was available at the time the estimate was prepared. And if the budget is based on an estimate and additional information becomes available, then it's of vital importance that you re-estimate or re-forecast to understand the true cost and progress of the job. And the sooner you're able to do it, the better. the next phase is typically the execution phase, and for program or project execution, we've got commitment management, change management, actual management. You can see the Primavera and DTC tools used in each of those disciplines, and receipt, incurred costs, and payment applications for invoicing and the accounts payable processing.
Yeah, I think it's nice to mention that those two slides just illustrate that exactly what Scott was saying, and then beyond that, that when you're working in an integrated either small enterprise or true large enterprise mega project kind of environment, how very, very dependent these applications, these top 3, top 5, that level of your infrastructure, how very dependent they become on each other across the planning, initiation, and execution and review processes.
Yeah, thanks for articulating that point for us. So again, I guess it leads into the next slide. Why integrate? And we view it as a single version of the truth. Often, you've got multiple systems, data is being rekeyed, project management office is looking at one set of data, the financial people are looking at another set of data, cost engineers may be looking at something completely different than the two previous data sets. And we begin to wonder why we can't get on the same page with reporting cost or progress and managing cost to budget. So comprehensive project information in a single system, and a single system is not necessarily JD Edwards, Primavera, or DTC, but a combination of integrating those 3 or 4 applications. Real-time data you can trust to be accurate. It's easy to make decisions when your information is timely. So again, even if the same data is being rekeyed, it takes a tremendous amount of time and effort to update multiple systems versus real-time integration. And again, the single version of the truth, DTC to Primavera to your financial system to payroll, making sure that we're all in lockstep with each other, and that no matter what system you're looking at any given time, it's articulating the same information as the other systems. And how many times, or again, this rekeying, I won't go over that one again, but then when everyone is speaking the same language, it's easy to share ideas and help each other become more successful on a project. And with that slide, we'll ask our first poll question, which is your plan updated with actual results? Yes or no, in your current organization? So it looks like, for the most part, everybody's the plan or schedule is updated with actual results. So that's great. That will flip over to the next slide. Again, why integrate? It's important to track and report on actuals during project execution. It allows us to evaluate actual project performance versus planned performance, and I think, as everybody in this industry knows firsthand, it's quite easy to plan out the work and how you think it's going to be executed, but then once you get out into the field, you run into all sorts of issues, whether it's weather, material availability, equipment availability, and things change, and that impacts your productivity, which needs to be incorporated into your ongoing planning and re-estimating, and allows to reforecast projects based on what actually occurred. So again, to the same point as the previous one. I think everybody's seen this typical continuous planning cycle before, but that's because discipline drives success, and it shows up quite often because Obviously, we get into the program and project planning, project execution. We want to know what real-time results are occurring, evaluate the performance, and back to updating the original plan. Often when we engage with customers, we hear things like, we would integrate our systems, but they're a little too cumbersome, or it's too complicated in that the work breakdown structure in the schedule doesn't match the GL structure in our financial system, and sometimes we hear we don't know how to translate or map between the systems from a technical perspective. So it sounds like for the most part everybody's updating their schedule with actual results. But is this a manual process or electronic process? And I guess our next poll question is, if it's not electronic integration, what's the reason? Is it too complicated, or can't map data from finance to plan? So I think the poll results are certainly in line with what we hear, is that it's typically too complicated to be integrating all of the different operational and financial systems. So the next slide is just wanted to illustrate how DTC and Primavera can work with each other in lockstep. So DTC is a language that can speak both the operational language of the work breakdown structure, cost codes, and activities, and can speak the financial language of division, department, and your GL chart fields. It's a tool for folks on-site to collect the labor, equipment, and material information, track quantities, percent complete, and allow the team to use actual data to status the job at any time, and also submit that information to your finance payroll system for payroll processing and job costing. As we talked about earlier, obviously DTC is the collection tool, and the updating of the schedule, the re-estimating of the job, the controlling of the commitments, and the budget is done within the Primavera tool set. But again, it's common to operate in silos, but once we get the integration built and the process understood, the integration path becomes pretty clear, and we can be updating the two systems simultaneously with changes that occur in Primavera to DTC and changes that occur in DTC back to Primavera. Similarly, on the DTC Primavera contract management side, I have a slide showing how we would, again, capture the incurred cost details and then roll that information up and pass it back to Primavera, the PCM application. The next slide is just sort of a high-level representation of where DTC sits between the planning scheduling cycle and the financial systems, and again just speaks to our ability to understand and map work breakdown structure to the GL structure of your financial system. When we start talking about integration, it's important to understand some of the specifics, and today we're certainly, Primavera has a large number of product offerings, but we're really focusing on three major product offerings today, and that's the Primavera P6 Enterprise, and it provides a single solution for managing projects of any size, adapt to various levels of complexity within a project, and intelligently scale to meet the needs of various roles, functions, or skill levels within your organization and project team. We're also talking about Primavera P6 Professional, and it's designed to handle large-scale, highly sophisticated, multifaceted projects and can be used to organize projects with up to 100,000 activities and provide unlimited resources and unlimited number of target plans. And then finally is the PCM, the Primavera Contract Management, and it's a document management, job cost, field controls solution to keep construction projects on schedule and on budget throughout the complete project lifecycle. Catherine, did you want to add anything?
No, I think it's just nice to recognize. I've had some issues with how they've branded or renamed Primavera Contract Management in the past. It used to be, for those of you that may be familiar with Primavera, it used to be called Expedition, and then it was Contract Manager, Expedition Professional at one point, and all of those have been rebranded to be Contract Management. It's a little misleading because it does, as that description says, it does do kind of job cost management, but it also has a lot of communication tools too. And then on the P6 side, the P6 suite, and you'll see several pieces of it listed, 2 of which we have in a box. But it's nice to think about P6 and PCM, or Primavera Contract Management, as tools that do not just project management and contract management or a particular piece of a project, maybe a particular scope of work, but they also roll all the way up to programs and portfolio management as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And there has been, we've noticed it, a little bit of confusion in the market just with Oracle acquiring Primavera and some of the rebranding that's gone on. So it's good to clarify that, make sure we're all on the same page. And with that, our third poll question is more or less out to you guys, asking you the same question. Which of the Primavera products are in play within your organization? The P6 Enterprise, the P6 Professional, the Primavera Contract Management. Perhaps we should have had all of the above. And maybe if it is all of the above, you can click Other. So it looks like it's primarily the P6 Professional. So I wanted to talk a little, get into a little bit of the technical details regarding integrating DTC with Primavera Product Suite. And there's 3 primary options as far as integrating goes, and that's through web services. So both Primavera product offering and DTC are web services-based applications, so we can be connecting to each other through web services. There's also the Application Programming Interface, or API, and there's the very traditional flat file integration that also exists. And within each of the sections, there are numerous technologies that can be employed to develop the integration, but it's typically under one of these 3 categories. The preferred approach is definitely the API, which it goes into some details here as far as how it works. And web services is fast becoming one of the certainly most popular ways to integrate. And I don't think I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, but these slides will be available on our website, and you'll get an email tomorrow sometime notifying you when the webinar has been posted, so you can come back and refer to this. So I won't get into all the details. This is a technical architecture diagram, and it just shows the different layers, the database services layer and the application layer, and you can see where DTC fits into the puzzle, and that we again typically communicate with Primavera through that web services layer. And understanding that the type of configuration DTC would typically integrate with through an API that communicates with Primavera through the web services. So the flat file type integration is one way, and it's great for maybe loading data into one system. But the going through the web services type approach is the ideal way for keeping the two systems in sync on an ongoing basis. Catherine, do you have any comments as far as what you're seeing in the industry when Primavera customers are integrating with other systems?
Yeah, that was kind of a technical slide, and what we like to see, kind of like the way DTC would approach an integration with one or more of the Primavera products, and then possibly some part of an ERP, maybe using Primavera as that avenue to the ERP, depending on what the design looks like. But what we like to see is that the integration solution, whatever is chosen, whether it's something that a solution provider has that's on the street that we can kind of plug into place and configure, or whether or not it's developed for that client specifically. And then obviously there's multiple layers of technology. So if you're doing flat file, you're going to run into the clients that I've normally worked with don't find that very attractive unless they're on the smaller scale. Just because of the error rates and the idea of batch processing flat files and the kinds of things that come into play there. From a strictly technical standpoint, all of it's doable and all of it's workable depending on what you're trying to do and the scale of that and the kind of user load that those kinds of solutions would start seeing. How many transactions are you processing? When are you processing those transactions? Do you want them scheduled? All of those things come into play for that evaluation and that design. Technically, we just like integration solutions, however simple or complex it is, to fit nicely within the infrastructure, technical infrastructure that already exists. So that's usually something that IT becomes very happy about, and then the business doesn't have to worry about it as soon as IT's not worrying about it. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and we definitely see the same. If you're going to build that integration, go through the process of mapping systems, you might as well automate the process so that you're reducing error rates and the number of times the data is going to be touched by human hands. And definitely for the larger organizations that need to consider things like SOX compliance, you want that to be as much of that interaction controlled and locked behind sort of behind the firewall, so to speak, as possible. And the next slide is sort of addressing the fact that both Primavera and DTC have import-export engines, for lack of a better term, built in, and they both have the API web services available. So the picture kind of illustrates the fact that when we're come to finally integrating the two systems, it's not as though we're starting from scratch and building the entire integration every single time we implement. We've got about 90% on each side, on the Primavera side, DTC side, built and ready to go in the commercial products, and then we're just working with each customer and the unique configurations that they may have to kind of map out the final 10% so that the two systems will be in sync. So it's not as expensive to integrate as it once was, and Catherine even alluded to the fact that there's middleware type applications out there that can expedite the process and reduce the IT total cost of ownership as well. So technology has advanced a lot in the last few years, and it's made it a lot easier for customers and vendors to integrate with each other. So we saw a smaller slide of this, but this is the work breakdown structure built out in Primavera P6, and you can import this type of work breakdown structure into Primavera from an estimating system or manual system, or it can be set up directly in P6. And the work breakdown structure can be exported to DTC, again, through flat file or API web services approach. And again, sort of alluded to it, but the flat file is more of a one-time approach. It's difficult to manage changes. It doesn't necessarily help you conform to things like CSOX or SOX compliance, and API is much easier to manage once it's been configured and put in place. Not that this slide means a whole bunch, but it's just a look at the DTC import engine and the fact that it's already there. You can see we've got the project import highlighted at the top, and this again can be tweaked or designed to map for each individual customer's specific requirements. And then the next slide is the job schedule, so we can schedule this job to run nightly, every hour. And if you're an administrator, you could come in and manually initiate the import process. Say if you set up a big job and you need to get going right away, you don't have to wait till 12 a.m. before it runs. You can do it on demand if need be. And then this is a look at the work breakdown structure once it's been run through the import process and brought into DTC. Then obviously you're deploying DTC to the field. You're capturing your labor hours, equipment hours, materials. This is just a look at those hours within DTC, and then we're going to send it back to Primavera. And now typically you've got very detailed information in DTC from a resource perspective so every guy, their classification and their hours for each day. And you can decide what level of detail you want to bring back into Primavera, whether it's by classification, by day, by week, by shift. And then we can send that back to Primavera through the DTC export engine, which looks very similar to the import engine, and then update the schedule and cost information in Primavera. This is just an example of the flat file import process. I just wanted to show you how that works. It's difficult to show you what the automated process looks like because it's mostly just technical code, but this is the built-in import process if you were doing a one-time import or a manual import into Primavera. And now you can see the work breakdown structure and the corresponding hours that were collected in DTC and brought back into Primavera to update the actual hours, so you can reforecast, reschedule, or reestimate, and also update the cost information, job cost information in the PCM module. So with that, we'll ask our fourth and final question: is do you see value in building integrations between Primavera and DTC? And looks like we may have done our jobs today, because I think everybody agrees that there's definitely value in integrating those systems so that we can stay in sync and have access to real-time information as much as possible. So just to recap on why integrate, we've got the single version of the single version of the truth, cost to schedule, measure and manage of the progress, real-time feedback, and the ability to re-estimate and report the truth of what's going on the job site. So as an Oracle partner, we have access to all the technical resource libraries that are required to ensure that the integrations are seamless and done properly. And certainly with partnering with Catherine, we can provide end-to-end functional and technical expertise throughout planning, scheduling, contract management, and the field data capture process. And just to talk about our other partnerships, we are a Microsoft partner. So DTC is a Microsoft-based product, runs on SQL Server, the .NET framework, and through the Microsoft Web Services. We're also an ADP partner for payroll processing, obviously the Oracle Primavera, and we're a BlackBerry RIM partner with, we didn't get into it today, but we do some daily attendance and emergency evacuation reporting through BlackBerry devices. So we also partner with BlackBerry. And just a final wrap-up sort of slide is, if you're interested in learning more, we're happy to do a bit of a Primavera integration evaluation with you, where we'll sit down and take a look at what you've got in place, what it would take to bridge the systems, and give you a bit of a report at the end of it, so that you understand the effort and resources required to do so. And we're also happy to provide a tailored DTC demo. It is very generic today, and often people want to know how we would deal with their specific issues, which isn't a problem. We're happy to do that. And we also do an efficiency assessment. We've got a lot of historical data to show the return on investment for implementing DTC or building these integrations, and we're happy to share that information with you as well. And we also do proof of concepts with customers who'd like to try before they buy, so to speak. So I think we've got a question. I think Michelle sent that to
Is this, you want me to address the one that I've seen so far?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we had a question come in about P6R8, and P6 does have a time card module or piece to it. It does some of that functionality. So the question is, why move in a DTC direction rather than a part of the P6 tool set that exists today? And I'm not a P6 expert, but I do have lots of buddies that are P6 gurus, and the word on the street is that time card feature that's built into P6 is not a very strong one. Now, I know that's a very kind of broad statement that it's not strong. What do you mean it's not strong? So I can't really answer where its flaws sit. I just know that it's not popular, and it's never been popular, which normally speaks to something, because it has been around for a while. What I can say from a Primavera implementation integration standpoint is that what we normally find is that people that are interacting with the Primavera suite, the level of expertise that it takes to interact with a P6 product, one, the culture is kind of scared of it. It is a bit of an elephant, for very good reason, but it is a bit of an elephant. And the licensing for P6 can be fairly costly. So I think one of the reasons that we see people moving to other time card solutions like a DTC solution is it tracks things at a greater level of detail. It probably provides a level of flexibility that P6 time card doesn't. It probably is less, and all of these are probablys, but less expensive from a licensing standpoint. And I do believe, given what I've seen, it's a lot easier to interact with. You're not having to log into P6 and figure out how to navigate around. So that's pretty much all I can say about that. If you need specifics as to why my peers, the P6 gurus, think that P6 time card is not a very great tool, and why it hasn't been used, whether it's just poor implementation or some of the things that I've listed off, I can get more information on that.
Yeah, and I would add too that DTC is a very niche product. So we're focused on the industrial industry, whereas Primavera is trying to address the needs of a much broader audience. And as we mentioned in the presentation, DTC is focused not only on collecting the project management type information, but also focused on collecting it and making sure that it's valuable to payroll. So capturing things like turnarounds or living out allowances or small tool allowances or travel per diems. Those are things that the DTC specializes in capturing, which, again, I'm not an expert, but I don't believe the Primavera timesheet solution focuses in on those types of issues, which are fairly specific to the industrial construction, which is typically done in remote locations, union-type environments. So, you know, we definitely capture the data not only to update the schedule, but also to feed payroll and job costing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Anytime you get like a best-of-breed collection of applications, like, you know, maybe a P6, maybe a PCM, contract management, maybe some ERP, whether it's JD Edwards, Oracle Financials, SAP, whatever it is, and then a true time card solution that's its core competency. Anytime you get those best-of-breeds and you're integrating, a lot of times in our needs analysis and our, you know, conceptual design for those kinds of efforts, we find that there are particular audiences that we want to protect visibility of certain information from. And when it comes to P6 specifically, if you talk to your project controls teams, then they'll sit back and say, you know, if you're going to do time card management here, that may dictate a certain level of detail with regard to how the activities are defined and structured, and that might not really be palatable for your controls team. They may say, you know what, we don't want that kind of information visible here. We'd rather collect it maybe at a summary activity level of some sort, some layer, and have it passed to us, and then have maybe a separate security area to manage something like a DTC that says, you know, who can interact with what and how does it get summarized to then get pushed to either the ERP or maybe the ERP via Primavera.
Right. Good point. So we have a second question, which is, can DTC push to JDE today, and is the integration in place? And great question. Thanks for that. And JD Edwards is definitely the most prominent ERP platform that we integrate with. So we are very versed at integrating with JDE, and yes, those integrations exist today, and we certainly have numerous references to speak to that. So are there any other questions today? Again, as I mentioned, the webinar will be available on our website, and you can come back and refer to it at any time and share it with others within your organization. And if there's any interest, again, we're happy to do an integration evaluation or a tailored demo, or even get into the efficiency assessment and proof of concept with you. So doesn't look like there's any more questions. So with that, I think we're right at 45 minutes. And we will, I guess we'll let you go unless you have any questions. Again, we'll make my contact information and Catherine's contact information available. So if you have any specific questions you'd like to follow up after the fact with, please by all means let us know, and we'll do our best to answer them.